Filming this one just as a response to one that comes up frequently. I'll post it as a reply on various Facebook threads and Facebook groups that I'm a part of for DoorDashers. And the question I'm going to say is this: what if I told you that there are restaurants that I will decline completely out of hand regardless of the terms? Now allow me to explain each one of these because there's several. I decline all Wendy's orders because of the fact that they've treated me very poorly. Their employees are very rude, very mean, and if you take the order off before they've waited on that stupid scale of theirs, they will completely verbally trash you. So I reject all Wendy's orders completely out of hand. I reject all Starbucks orders completely out of hand for a completely different reason. Their people are nice, but their packaging sucks. I've had several Starbucks orders that have spilled on customers' porches, spilled inside my vehicle. The drinks leak through the cups, the lids don't stay on, and they leak through the cups, and then they leak through the bags and the packaging. I don't even necessarily have to open spill, but if the cup leaks or if the lid opens, then the drink spills out and spills through the bag and leaks through the bag. Lo and behold, I have coffee drink spilled all over my seat. Same can go when you drop off the order on the customer's doorstep. Same thing happens. Terrible packaging, not worth the risk. Not worth the risk to my vehicle, not worth the risk to my customer ratings. If they show up with the drink spilled over their front door, that's a risk. I'm always measuring risk in this position. Always, always, always. And the risks, of course, are not always the same, but this is a big one, and that's why I reject all Starbucks orders completely out of hand. I also reject all Burger King orders completely out of hand. This is a market where we have very long wait times to begin with. We average over 12 minutes, but Burger King's average over 20 in this market. It's just not worth the cold food risk. Or the late food risk, so that one, Burger King, I will reject every single time, regardless. Another one that I don't like necessarily doing are liquor stores. Now, I've not been signed up for liquor stores for quite a while. But it gets to the point where you're starting to do those for the same customers over and over again, especially when you're in a small market like mine, with a town with a population of only 20,000. On those alcohol runs, you'll see the same people over and over again. So I used to reject all of those out of hand, and eventually I did get DoorDash to just block those off for me entirely. So another one that I reject entirely out of hand, Menards. I'll do Home Depot, but I reject all Menards orders. Why? Because the pickup area is in the far back end of the store, so you're spending an extreme amount of time to reach your order. Then half the time you reach the order, it's not even there. And then you have to go, it basically becomes a shop and order, or a shop and deliver. Another one I reject for the same reason is the convenience store chain Speedway. I reject all of those out of hand because I've never had an order that is ready for me by the time I get there. So either the employee has to pull the items or I have to. I did not sign up to do this to do shopping runs for customers. If I did, I would have signed up for shipped. So that is also a no-go. Dairy Queen, also automatic reject for similar reasons as Burger King. Their wait times are just outrageous. I think one of the shortest wait times I ever had at a Dairy Queen was 10 minutes. And it usually runs a lot longer than that. Again, in this market, restaurant labor is a struggle for almost everybody. But this Dairy Queen and this Burger King in particular take that to an extreme. So I will never, ever accept one of those specific orders. Another one that I won't pick up is basically for AutoZone, the auto parts chain. The reason for that is every time I've ever accepted an AutoZone order, the store never received the order. And so I would always leave those completely empty-handed. There was never an order there. The customer may have canceled it, but it didn't disappear from the system. And so they also can't remedy this in store for you. So you have to actually take a non-pickup hit at AutoZone. So I never accept those because they never turn out being successfully made delivery at all. And of course, when that happens, you make absolutely nothing. AutoZone, automatic reject. So that's AutoZone auto reject, Starbucks auto reject, Menards auto reject, Dairy Queen auto reject, Burger King auto reject, and Speedway auto reject. All for very good reasons. All because you either spend an extreme amount of time waiting for the orders, or in the case of AutoZone, the order's not there at all. So those are automatic rejects. Now on the flip side, what about ones where I will accept, I have my mileage requirements, of course, $1.44 per mile break even on an offer. What are the ones that will fudge a little bit on, or, I'm not going to accept a minimalist order anywhere, but what are the ones that I'm willing to fudge a little bit on just to be able to get the pickup made? Or I'll make the pickup even if it doesn't quite, even if it falls just a little bit short of those particular standards. Well, one of them is McDonald's. In this market, they are the gold standard. It will always be ready whenever you arrive, almost. And the one time it wasn't was yesterday for me. That's because there was a particular, they didn't have apple pies ready. And so they were willing to offer a strawberry cream pie. McDonald's will, at least in this market, at least in Forest Lake, they will have a conversation with you. If something is not ready, they will help you out. And again, 95% of the time, the order is ready when I arrive every time. My time is important and it's very valuable, and they save my time. I spend almost no time waiting at McDonald's ever. Very rare. And so I will fudge on my $1.44 per mile requirement just a bit with those guys, because they're good. And I tell them that every time I come in there. I said, you guys are the gold standard in this region for deliveries being ready. I make sure I let them know that. I make sure I compliment them heavily every time I'm in there, because I want to encourage them to continue. McDonald's, I will fudge just a little bit because their readiness is constant. I actually will also fudge, not as generously as McDonald's, but I will fudge a little bit at Home Depot, because those trips tend to be very good in this market. I will go well. I usually will go well over the $1.44 per mile, but even if it's not, if there's like 2 or 3 pickups on a trip, it can be made so that it's efficient enough where I'm not spending a lot of money or miles to get back to town. They're kind of set up. They're set up that way that it's actually pretty good, where you'll have a fair amount of miles in order to complete the trip with multiple stops. But the last stop will always be closer to town than the overall trip out as a whole. So I'll look at the map, and a lot of times for Home Depot, I will fudge on the $1.44 per mile because I know I'm not really needing that much to break even to begin with. The other thing that's great about them is if it's a locker order, you just walk up to the cabinet, enter your locker code, pick it up, and run. You're not spending any time at the counter at all. The counter there at our Home Depot, at least in particular, is very fast and efficient. They're very good. I let them know that too. So you go to the counter there. Even if you have to go outside to the lawn and garden area to pick up, the counter will give me a slip, and I'll just go out and hand it to the kids that are working in that area, and they'll load it for me. So this Home Depot Forest Lake, is actually very, very good. And the mileage is usually set up in a way that's favorable. It does not require $1.44 per mile to get to break even, because the return trip is a lot shorter than the trip out. On Uber in particular, it'll be lined up this way. Most of my DoorDash trips for Home Depot are not multis. So on DoorDash, I'll have to consider it from the straight formula. But on UE, I can fudge from that $1.44 per mile a bit, because it'll be lined up in a way that's a little bit more favorable. So that's not not my true break-even point on Uber Eats. So that is basically the list here. Ones that I will reject out of hand completely, and ones that I will fudge a little bit in order to be able to accept. The rules are not always super hard and super fast, but for the rejects they are. Because they present risks that go beyond mileage and time. They present quality risks. They present wait time risks. And in the case of Wendy's, they present a get harassed by the staff and possibly run into a conflict where you get deactivated risk. So that's it for this time. I will see you on the next go, and as always, peace out, homies.